I have seen so many contractors who are doing $2, 3, 4, $5 million a year in top line revenue, and they hire somebody for their team that is performing, but for some reason you just feel like they are not a fit for the team. You see things in their attitude, in their character, the way that they show up on a consistent basis, and something is just not adding up. And so what conclusion do you come to? Well, this becomes really confusing because you don't know if you should fire them, how you should let them go, and how to look out for this in the future if it ends up happening again. Lucky for you, I actually got the opportunity to ask these questions to Leila Hormozi. If you guys don't know who Leila is, she is one of the best modern day operators of our time. And getting to sit down with her to ask her this question gave me all the clarity that I needed that I could pass down to the contractors that I spoke with. And so I want to give you guys that insight as well. Leila is the CEO of acquisition.com, and they run a portfolio that does over $250 million in revenue every single year, probably more at this point. And beyond this, I actually had the opportunity to meet her in person, but that's not what this video is about. I just want to share the conversation that we had. So hopefully you guys can take some of these insights that she shared with me and apply them to yourself and to your construction business anytime it comes to these hiring situations that you run into. If you don't know who I am, my name is Lev Parseghian, and I'm the founder of Cosmosify Consulting Agency that helps remodel contractors and custom home builders bring order to their business. And without any further ado, let's get into the video. Leila, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to meet you. I'm a huge fan of everything that you guys are doing at acquisition.com. And my brother and yeah, you see the books back there.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law to be, my fiance's brother and I, we had like a whole like watch event the day that the book launched and everything. So really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Dude, thanks for the support. I appreciate that.
I'm just going to kind of get into it. So I'm the founder of Cosmosify, a consulting agency that helps residential general contractors bring order to their companies by operationalizing their businesses.
That is needed.
Yeah, definitely needed. I mean, you just went through a build yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm in the mid process.
Oh, okay.
Hit me up after.
A big part of doing what I help contractors do effectively is hiring everyone from leaders to individual contributors. And so the question that I have for you is kind of twofold. So the first one comes from a real space because I've ran into this with some of my partner contractors companies already, where we bring someone on, but then after they come on, we realize that it's not necessarily the best fit. So how do you let someone go who is performing, but they just don't align with like the company values?
Yeah, it's a really good question to ask. I like to be honest about these things, which is typically, in my opinion, if somebody is not a culture fit, that's probably an interview process issue, right? Which is like, what more can we do on the front end to filter out for this? I would say that I like to, okay, I'll put it like this. I like to measure cultural, like, is someone a values fit by, do they exemplify the values through the behaviors? Because just saying that, like, yeah, I'm trustworthy, but okay, well, if you lie to everybody, then you're not, right? And so first off is in a company, I think it's really important to say what behaviors indicate that a person has these values. So then when a person comes in, they understand that those are behaviors that they are measured on, right? So for example, like in our quarterly reviews and such, we have behaviors that would indicate that somebody abides to the values that we have, right? So if somebody comes in and they're new and they're, quote, not a fit, right? Then I think that the best thing that you can do is just let them go and say it's because it's not a fit. Now, here's the thing. I'm not an HR professional or a legal professional, but I will tell you this. The more reasons, and this is really unfortunate, but it's the truth, in any argument or in any conversation where you're ending a relationship, the more things that you list as to why you end it, the more pieces of data you give them to argue back against you and to say, oh, that is not true. Let me tell you why. So the more reasons you provide, whether it's breaking up with somebody, whether it's quitting a job, or whether it's firing somebody, the more data that you provide, the longer you drag out the process and conversation, and likely the more painful you make it for the person. Because also the more data that you give them to poke holes in your claims and to say that you're not lying. And so I honestly just have the script of like, you know what? It's just not a fit. And so we're just gonna have to move on. I like to give them a good severance because I don't want anyone to be high and dry. They just quit their job to come there. And so I tend to really short conversation, really good package upon exit to make sure that they can set themselves up successfully. Even if That means, like, for me personally, I will even try and replace them somewhere if I know somebody who is looking for the thing.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
like, I'll put feelers out in my network and say, like, I've got this person, great performer. Here's why they're not a fit for me, but I thought they might be a fit for you. Would you be open to an interview? And so, in those instances, sometimes I'll set people up with like 2 to 3 interviews so that it's like, okay, not only I'm just ending it now because, hey, you're not going to have a career here. So it's better for me to do it now, not later. Second is I'm going to give you a good severance package because I want to do right by you and you quit your job to come here and this is on me. And the next one is how can I go even far above and beyond that is how can I set them up for success in their next venture, which could be like, let me help you rewrite your resume. Let me set you up with 2 to 3 interviews. Or it could be like, let me be a reference for these jobs that you're taking on. And so I
Mm,
would say any one or all three of those things are things that you can offer in those instances. Because like you said, the person has the skill. It's just, they're probably a better fit for somewhere else.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And the second, I mean, like you kind of answered both of the questions that I had,
Oh,
but is there like a practical way of, so I'll say this, like in sales roles, one thing that we do when recruiting is we get on mock calls, and we'll do like a role play of like an outbound call, an inbound call, or something like that.
yeah.
But what is a way to assess culture fit outside of like scenario based questions that's tangible?
I think that I would say it like this. I look at it like I call it the 4-way fit, right? You've got organizational fit, which is culture and values. You have skill fit, which is are they capable of doing the job? You have potential fit, which is where you intend the job to go, where they want the job to go, right? And so it's like if
Okay.
you can, mhm. And so within the culture fit piece, um, I mean, I hone in on basically I break down our values and then I break down 2 to 3 questions that would indicate if they exemplify those values or not.
Yeah.
I think that the issue is that most people are very bad at asking questions. I mean, I'm just being real. So like,
Yeah.
um, and they're bad at understanding if somebody's answer is bullshit or not. So if I
Yeah.
say, hey, one of our values is sincere candor, like tell me about the last time we had a hard conversation and what was it? If they take 5 minutes to recall a hard conversation, and then when they do bring it up, it's very vague. They don't talk about names, times, no
Yeah.
details of the conversation. They're probably bullshitting me, right?
Yeah.
Versus if somebody immediately recalls and they're like, actually yesterday, and here's what happened
Yeah.
with me and John, probably very likely that it is actually a legitimate discussion that they had.
That's
And so
fair.
I think it's kind of on both sides, which is like you have to understand when somebody is, if somebody uses very little details and is very vague and takes a long time to answer the question, it is likely that they are making it up. And then on the other side, you have to know how to ask pointed questions. Um, and I think that a lot of people don't know how to actually ask a question that would infer if this person exemplifies those values, which goes back to what behaviors does somebody have to exemplify that dictates that value? So I'll give you an example. So our value, competitive greatness, what does that mean, right? To me, that means that if a customer calls at 4:59 and you clock out at 5, do you answer the call or not?
Mm, yeah, that's huge.
Well,
That's
if you're
huge.
clock in, clock out, and you're not competitively great by my standard, then you would say no because I have to leave in 1 minute. Nobody on my team would do that. They would all say, absolutely, I'm going to answer the phone. Are you kidding me? I'll answer the
Yeah.
phone at 5:10. And so I think that I would relook at the questions that you're asking and say, like,
Yeah.
do these really, are we operationalizing our values? Meaning, like, are we turning these values into behaviors and
Mm,
then asking questions to find out if they already do these behaviors?
yeah. That's huge. I mean, you fully answered the question. Over
Oh,
delivered for
cool.
sure.
Good. I'm glad then. Sick.
Yeah. I appreciate it a ton, Layla. Looking forward to future events, workshops that you guys host,
Thank
and
you.
looking forward to meeting you guys in person.
Ah, exciting. Yeah. I'm going to look up your company after this. Lots of pain.
I'll talk to you
All
soon.
right. See ya.
Bye. So there you guys have it. That is my conversation with Leila Hormozi. I continue to get so much value from this conversation when I re-listen to it time and time again. And I hope that you guys can take just bits and pieces from this conversation and apply it to yourself and to your construction business. One thing I do want to highlight that Leila said is that so many hiring decisions are made because of your inability to ask good questions. questions. And so, contractors, if you're watching this and you're like, like I've hired a couple of duds, think back to what your interview process actually looked like. What was the quality of the questions that you were asking on a scale of 1 to 10? Was it a 10? Was it so intricate, so good to the point where you really got an understanding of who the person is by their response? Because oftentimes the response that you get has less to do with the person's answer and more to do with your ability to convey what you actually want to get from their answer. And so, you guys, if you guys got value from this video, please subscribe, like, do the whole thing, and share this with a contractor friend so hopefully they can get some value from it as well. I will see you guys and talk to you guys in the next one. In the meantime, peace.